I first came to the Boiler Room in 2000. I had graduated high school. I was living in Seattle. I started doing meth and I lost my apartment. I lost my job and I ended up living under the I-5 overpass in downtown. I really wanted to get out of that situation, and I knew a couple of street kids who pointed me to Port Townsend, to the Boiler Room in particular. The volunteers on shift at that point asked what I needed, if I needed help, and they called a board member. And I ended up going and sleeping on that board member's floor for about 18 hours. And I woke up the next morning and went back up to the Boiler Room, and I stayed on a porch in an abandoned house in Uptown for a while. But I started volunteering at the Boiler Room. I volunteered on and off for the next 10 years.
The first time I went to the Boiler Room, I think this would have been really close to when it first opened, probably 93, 94, 95 time period. It became a place I spent basically part of every day for 5, 6, maybe 7 years, meeting up with other people who kind of were having the same experiences. Had I not had the Boiler Room at that point in time, I would have felt a lot more isolated.
I got involved because I didn't really have any friends. I was very isolated in my teenage years, and it was just starting to open up. We just moved to town. Suddenly I have a place to go instead of being at the house or at school or the library all the time.
What the Boiler Room did for me was give me a place as a young person trying to figure out where I fit into the world, and giving me the self-determination, the autonomy to sort of own my own space. That's something that everyone needs in some way, shape, or form. Usually and frequently when they're in their teenage years.
When I was about 16, I went to Chimacum High School, and I was involved in school, but I didn't quite feel like I fit in. I really loved the Boiler Room. It was a place that I could go meet with my friends and use the phone and the bathroom and feel safe. I was the manager of the Boiler Room through the transition from Uptown to being homeless for 6 months to reopening downtown. I've seen a lot of kids come into the Boiler Room and just be kind of lost, and then very slowly find their niche in the Boiler Room.
When future generations are growing up, they're going to need a similar space. I can think of no other place in the community that does that for the certain population.
When I was 18, I ended up leaving my home and being transient for a while. The Boiler Room was the only place I really felt accepted during that time.
I believe the Boiler Room is important for many different reasons. It can help young people gain job skills.
I was having the hardest time finding a job anywhere because I didn't really look like someone you'd want to hire. I heard that they were hiring for a volunteer coordinator, and the Boiler Room was the only place that hired me.
I really enjoyed my time at the Boiler Room, which spanned over almost 20 years.
So the Boiler Room owns its building, its space, but it also is subject to a mortgage, and there's a balloon payment that we have to make. If we can't make that payment, if we can't figure out how to refinance or however we do it, the Boiler Room could lose its home. Without the Boiler Room, I imagine a lot of my friends, a lot of the people who were super important to me growing up, going through the Boiler Room, who remain among my absolute best friends today, would be who knows where. I think it would have been easy for a lot of people who I count amongst my closest friends to have slipped through the cracks if it weren't for the Boiler Room.
Your generous donation will help sustain the Boiler Room. Contact us at 360-379-8247 or info@ptbr.org. Please support the Boiler Room.